Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today I'm continuing my series of kind of reviewing all of the Harry Potter movies and then ranking them at the end. This time we're to the third movie, which is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So I'll give my thoughts and talk a little bit about the movie and the highlights and my positives and negatives of the film. So stay tuned to hear my thoughts here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello, hope everybody's doing well here on a Saturday afternoon. Doing pretty good. The weather's getting a little colder, so I got my Did You See That sweatshirt from the great channel Did You See That and Mike. In fact, I was just on his channel and he did a 60th Z Talks. And I was happy to get to be on there for 2 hours and get to talk to a lot of cool people about movies. Love being on Z Talks. Loved Mike's channel. Did You See That? Of course, I'm a big fan of that. And yeah, cool that this is 60th Z Talk, and I feel like I've been on at least 20 or 30 of them. I've been on quite a bit of the Z Talks, and I feel so honored that Mike keeps asking me back, and I always jump at the opportunity to be on there and support Mike any chance I get. But anyways, yeah, definitely check out Did You See That and his Z Talks episode 60. But anyways, yeah, besides that, yeah, having a great day. Definitely getting colder outside. It's good. I'm off the weekend, so it's always great. Just feeling, hanging out at home and chilling and getting to talk about movies and all that. And this time I'm, of course, continuing talking about Harry Potter. Thanks to my friend Briar, who kind of recommended this to be a series that I will kind of go through and review all the movies. And what a great series. I mean, I'm a big fan of Harry Potter. Kind of became a fan, like I talked about before. Didn't really become a fan until I was in college, and I finally checked out the first two movies. I think probably my second year in college, I finally got around to them and watched the first two movies, and I became a fan. I was really enjoying the whole world building, the whole storylines. The characters are great. It was after the second movie that I started reading the books, because I remember the third movie was going to come out, and I guess I'll show you my copy here of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This book was published in 1999, and it is 317 pages long, so it's just slightly bigger than the first two books, but still not too much. Still a pretty easy read, get through it pretty quickly, comparatively to other fantasy series that I read. And still short enough, it's pretty easy to adapt into a movie, I would say. The movie itself came out in 2004, which I think the second movie came out in 2002, so I guess they waited a little bit for the third one, about two years. So there's some time there where I was able to start reading the Harry Potter series, because I hear so much good things about the Harry Potter book series, of course, and I was kind of into the movies, the first two movies. So kind of coming up to the third movie, I read the first three books, I remember. And man, I love the books. The books are even better than the movies, I think, in a lot of senses. I think J.K. Rowling did such an amazing job with the storyline and just world building. Every book, you learn more stuff about the Wizarding world, which I love. Of course, this one, we learn about the Dementors, which is a huge, characters in the series. And such a great kind of scary character, that comes in and sucks your soul out of your body, basically. And portrayed really well in the movie as well. They did a really good job with that. Anyway, so yeah, you love hearing about that. Of course, you hear all about Harry Potter's parents' backstories a little bit more. You hear about he had a friend named Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew and also Lupin. They were like four friends, him and then James Potter, Harry Potter's dad, hung out. We get to hear about that, which is really cool, getting that backstory of Harry's dad and his friends growing up, and also get some more backstory of what happened to his parents and who's responsible for them, for Voldemort learning where they were and them killing them. Anyway, so definitely some interesting backstories in this movie and the book that add to the story that I really like. And that's what I love about all the books, is they always add new stuff to the story that is very interesting. A lot of creative ideas in there. So really love all of that. Obviously, it's a huge seller, #1 bestseller book. Wins all the big awards. Sold over 3 million copies, so did very, very well. The movie itself did very well, but not as well as the other two, which is interesting. Domestically grossed 250 million and worldwide grossed 797 million. Well, the first one was over $1 billion and the second one was close to $1 billion. It was like 900 some million. So I don't know why this was less. I don't know if you think as the movies go on, more people would want to come back and watch them, but maybe they're getting more and more not exciting, I guess, the world or something. I don't know. For me, this is the first movie I saw in the movie theater was Prisoner Azkaban. So it was kind of exciting to go actually see the new movie coming out. And I read the book, so I knew what was going to happen, but still was excited to watch the movie, which is this. Here's the movie here, Harry Potter, Prisoner Azkaban. Of course, you got to have Buckbeak there on the back. Another great new character, I guess you can say, in the series. This took a different departure. We go away from Christopher Columbus, who directed the first two movies, and we bring on Oscar-winning director Alfonso Cuarón on. So it's a very interesting pick there. Alfonso Cuarón didn't do blockbuster movies at this point. He did a little more low-budget independent movies, and he did more. Of course, he's I believe he's from Mexico, and his movies he did before are all, I believe, Spanish-speaking movies, from Mexico. And so it's interesting. I might be wrong. This is like maybe the first time he came in and did like more of a big Hollywood movie in English, and he's already very sought after because he did a movie, I think, called Talk to Me or something like that. That was very well liked, I think, international movie. And you go on to make other big movies. Like I said, I think he's won two. I know he's won at least one Oscar for Best Director since it was after this movie was made. I know he won for Roma, which was a Netflix movie that I believe he won. I know he won Best Director for that, and he might have won for Gravity. I was thinking he did Gravity, and he might have won Best Director for that, which was kind of a Hollywoodish movie. But yeah, he's definitely one of the great directors of today. Definitely has a great visual style to him, and all that. And so interesting bringing him into the series and have him. This is the only movie he directed, but it was kind of like it's kind of interesting that they brought in someone different to kind of almost reboot the series in a sense, the way it looks and all that. Steve Kloves comes back to write the screenplay, as he wrote the screenplay for the other two movies. And then we get a couple new characters here. We get Gary Oldman comes in and plays Sirius Black, which is a really great, important character. And Gary Oldman, great actor. Definitely love him coming in. And perfect casting. Like I said, one of the best things about this movie series is I love every casting choice. There's never a casting choice. Well, there's one casting choice I didn't like, and I'll get to that. But almost every other casting choice is just perfect. You're like, wow, that's a great choice. And of course, they brought in all these great British actors to come in and just really do a good job. David Thewlis, I think his name is, comes in to play the new Defense Against Dark Arts teacher, Lupin, who has a secret. Here, I'm spoiling the books and the movies, so beware. I'm going to spoil everything. Through this Lupin ends up being a werewolf and also a good friend of James Potter, Harry Potter's dad, that we find out. Very interesting. But he comes in and he's such a great character. I think David Thewlis is a really good actor. He's definitely another one of my favorite character actors that every time I see him in a movie, he does a really good job. And I like that we get this, I love how one of the great things about the books and the movies is that we get a new Defense Against our Dark Arts teacher every year. And they always put it in a really interesting character into that role, and because it changes every time. And so I love what they do with it. I like the first movie, you get Quill, who's kind of this, seems like a very scared character who ends up being, mysteriously a bad guy as well. Then the second movie, you get Lockhart, who's this very incompetent, nitwit wizard, which is very funny, more comical. And this one, Lupin is definitely the best dark arts teacher that they've had, I think, through the whole series. I would say, yeah, they haven't had a better one. Does a very good job as a teacher, and he's the only nice teacher I think they ever had, and he's a good teacher, and he's good to the kids. A lot of them are not very, either not good at teaching or are jerks or whatever, you know. So it's definitely one of those rare times where you go, wow, they actually got a good teacher. And I kind of like that he was actually a nice teacher for once that we get in the series. We also get Michael Gambon coming in to replace Richard Harris as Dumbledore. Unfortunately, Richard Harris passes away after the second movie, and so they have to recast the character into Michael Gambon. And I don't know Michael Gambon before this movie. I've seen him in a couple of things since. I've seen him here and there in other movies. You know, not a real well-known actor in my opinion, but and I don't know why they put him into this role. I would say this is my least favorite casting choice. I think of all the casting choices, I didn't think Michael Gambon did very good as Dumbledore, and maybe that's because Richard Harris was so good. I thought Richard Harris totally nailed the character. Really loved his Dumbledore. Michael comes in, he changes the character a little bit, I guess, to fit his style of acting maybe, or his whatever. And he kind of shapes the character a little bit differently. I mean, I don't know. I didn't like what he does with the character, but unfortunately, Michael Gambon passed away just a couple weeks ago too. So, I mean, unfortunately, another Dumbledore, you know, is dead. Then we get Emma Thompson coming in as Professor Trelawney, who's another kind of almost incompetent teacher, does like this astrology class of predicting, you know, kind of an interesting character. Emma Thompson, another great actress. Love that for that character. And then I'm also going to talk about Timothy Spall comes in. He actually is only in the movie for a short bit of time at the end, but Timothy Spall is another actor I really like. Anytime I see him in a movie, I'm always like, oh, good, Timothy Spall is here. You know, like, I know he's going to do a good job. And he does a good job in the small part that he has. So I have to mention him, and he's in the later movies, but really love that casting choice anyway. So those are some really good new characters in this movie. I did get Oscar nomination for two Oscar nominations. Interesting, none of the movies won an Oscar, which is, you know, I mean, it's hard to win an Oscar, but, you know, you think they'd win at least one. And they never get nominated for acting. Yet there's so many great acting, you know, with especially with, like I said, Snape's, Alan Rickman is so good in these movies, you know, and some of the others, you know, even Gary Oldman's great in these movies. David Thewlis is good in this one. I wish there was more acting nominations, in fact, as well. But anyways, but we get a Best Original Score nomination, which we got one, I think, for the first movie. John Williams, of course, I think comes back. He didn't score all the movies, I know, but I believe he scored these first three at least. And, you know, obviously Williams, the greatest, he's the GOAT of movie scoring. Does another great job here. I think this one stands out amongst a lot of the other ones. They had this song in here, Something Wicked This Way Comes. And that's a good song and a good sequence where we see this choir, wizarding choir singing this song, Something This Way. And they're carrying these like big toads in there for some reason. Very interesting visual. Anyways, but yeah, that's a cool addition to the score, which is obviously amazing. Also nominated for Best Visual Effects. I'm guessing because you bring in Buckbeat, which is a CGI character throughout this movie, and you got a great sequence there. And then you got Werewolf in here, you got the Grim Dog, whatever. So I guess because of that, they got a visual nomination as well. Yeah, just get my thoughts on the movie. I mean, this is funny because this is a movie that is well beloved. It's probably everybody's favorite movie in the series. Like almost anybody you talk to that's a fan of Harry Potter or fan, you know, these series will say the third movie, Prisoner of Azkaban, is their favorite. This is almost always the #1 favorite movie amongst Harry Potter films. And I think that's because you got Alfonso Cuarón. He's definitely the best director they've gotten. Though I do like Christopher Columbus. I thought he did a good job in the first two movies. And I think the other directors coming on, there's some good stuff there. But I think because he's such a widely thought of director, and he's a good director in some sense. I'm like not a big fan of Alfonso Cuarón. Most of his movies are kind of boring to me. I can see that people like that. I think this movie is darker in tone and visually. I think when you watch the first two and you get to this one, it just feels like visually this is just darker. Everything's dark. It's not, first two a little bit lighter and feel a little more fun. This one seems a little more serious and dark in tone. And I think a lot of people like that. They like that the series is getting a little darker and more serious in tone, you know. And I think because of that and the visual style, people really love the visual style, I think, of this movie. And I think that's why they put it their favorite, I guess, in the series. I say it's funny because it's actually one of my least favorite in the series. I'll get at the end, I'll rank them when I get to the end of the series. But I'm just saying right now, I'm not going to say where I'm ranking this movie, but I'll just say this is in the bottom half of my ranking. Yeah, I'm just not as... It's still a good movie. There's still some really great stuff. I'll get to my positive negatives here, but overall, I like the movie. But man, it's not one of my favorite in the series, actually. It's one of my least favorite. And I'm just the oddball in that whole thing where I just don't get why everybody loves it so much. I think it's one of the weaker ones for me. The book is fine. Again, it's not one of my favorite books in the series. It's still good. All the books are good, I think. I think the books get better, though. I think definitely the story is getting even more interesting. Like I said, I love, and of course, the books are going to get bigger, and there's going to be more story, and then you'll get a lot more backstory. So I love, one of my favorite things about when you're reading each book, of course, and watching the movies is you're learning more about the Wizarding World, more world building. I love the world building here. You're learning about the Dementors in this one, which is great. I love the whole idea. You're also learning more backstory of, you know, the past, you know, and how Voldemort, you know, what's his past, you know, what's Harry Potter's parents' past, you know. We get that in the second movie, and then we get more of it in this one. So definitely love that. In each movie and book, we're getting more backstory. So just love the way the whole series, it's just like a perfect series to me in that sense. Anyway, so yeah, it's overall, I like the movie a lot. Even though it's my least favorite, it's still a really good movie, I think. And definitely not my favorite, though, like everybody else, but still good. So getting to my positives, as I've kind of talked about already. Like one of my positives, I think, is the visual style is really good, I think. Like I said, Kron, I think, is really good with the visual style. I think is part of his strong point as a director. I think this definitely has some good set designs in them and stuff like that. Of course, it's darker because the Dementors are very dark characters, and you almost have this horror-like scene, which I think Kron does well in, you know, when the Dementors first come on the train, you know, and come into the car where Harry is. They definitely try to play it up more of a horror-like type sequence. So, and maybe that's where Kron comes in and does a really good job compared to maybe Christopher Columbus would do, you know. So, yeah, so I do like that. I think cinematography is really good in the movie. I think they changed where they did the movie because when we get to the third movie, there's this big sequence, of course, where Harry Potter gets on Buckbeak, this, I don't know what I forget what they call it, the creature, but this kind of mishmash creature that flies. And he gets on the back and they fly around, and it's like, wow, it's so beautiful, the castle, there's like a lake, and there's all these mountains, and you're like, wow, I don't remember this being this beautiful in the first two movies. And I think because they totally changed the setting in the third movie, they shot it in New Zealand, if I remember right. And that's the first time I remember them ever talking about shooting in New Zealand. And you can tell when you see that sequence, you're like, oh, now we're like in Lord of the Rings, you know, we're in New Zealand area where it's just beautiful mountains and everything, and the cinematography is just really amazing. So that was a nice touch to it. It definitely makes you want to go visit. Like, man, I'd love to visit that Hogwarts if that was a real place. Really cool area. Obviously, I love some great characters coming in here. I always love the new characters, especially Gary Oldman is so good. I mean, he's one of the greatest actors, I think. He's an Oscar winner now. He wasn't at this time, but he was a known actor. I feel like he always plays villainous characters, and so this was like a perfect character for him because, of course, spoiling the movie, he looks like a villain, and he's even dressed like it, the long hair. I mean, even the name Sirius Black, that sounds like a villain. But it's great, the makeup and everything, the way he looks and the way he acts, how angry he is, because he's a guy that's been stuck in this Azkaban prison for a while, and he's out, and it looks like he's out to get Harry Potter. He's out to kill Harry Potter, and that's the whole mystery, or the whole, you know, thing of the whole story is. And then the whole backstory, they think Sirius Black was the one who told Voldemort where his parents were, and that Sirius Black was a murderer, and he was a terrible wizard, you know, and he was a friend of James Potter, so he's also a backstabber, you know. So it's all this interesting, you know, things that we get about the story, the backstory of, you know, of what happened to Harry Potter's parents, and learn about his friends, you know. And the Marauders map is such a great, you know, idea of a object that you can see where people are, and how they created that. All that is so good. But yeah, Gary Oldman, he's not in it a lot, but when he comes in, and I'll talk about this here in my next positive, towards the end there, oh man, he is so good as Sirius Black. And he's great throughout the series, of course, when he's in it. And yeah, David Thewlis, like I said, great. I love his Lupin is another really great character anyways. But yeah, always love that. Like I said, casting's always just really good. The third positive, the last positive I'll say, is just that third act is so good. It really, to me, that's what makes the movie positive in my sense. Like, if it wasn't for that third act, I'd probably leave away going, I wasn't a big fan of this movie. But that third act really turns the movie. And it deals with time travel, again, spoiling the movie. But you find out that Hermione has a little necklace that she time travels with, so she can take more classes, of course, because Hermione, she's such a, you know, book nerd, such a, you know, bookworm nerd, you know, that wants to take more. Who wants to take more classes? Who want to take less classes? That's what I would feel like in high school. I tried to take the least amount of classes as I had to. But she wanted to take more classes. She wanted to learn more. So she uses time travel just so she can go back in time and take another class. Anyways, it's a very interesting, funny idea. But then that comes into play at the end. And the way they do time travel, brilliant. Love how you see the movie play out, and then they time travel back to this point, and you see all these things happen that you go, oh, that's what happened. Like, I wasn't sure what happened in the scene, but now you get full of context of the scene because of the time travel, and how they use that to help, you know, save Buckbeak, for instance. And yeah, how they use that to learn, you know, who did the charm, I'm forgetting, the Patronum, you know, and all that. Yeah, it's just a brilliant use of time travel. That whole third part, really great. I love all that. Definitely makes the movie very good. Anyways, in my opinion. So yeah, those are my positives in the movie, and then we get to my negatives. Like I said, it's one of my least favorite. It's kind of some of the negatives. And the big negative for me is I didn't think the humor was very good in this movie. Like the first two, I talk about my positives. I think there's a lot of good humor in them, especially, the second one with Lockhart is absolutely hilarious. They try to do humor in here, and it does not work. I call it cringe humor. There's a couple scenes where I go, oh my God, that's supposed to be funny, but it just came off really bad and annoying. And my least favorite scene probably in all the Harry Potter movies is the night bus scene. Scene where he gets on, there's this night bus that picks up wizards and stuff like that, but the humans can't really see it or whatever. And it's run by this shrinking head that has a Jamaican accent. And then Ernie, I think, is the bus driver who doesn't talk. But I hate that scene. That shrunken head is the most annoying character in the whole series. I absolutely hated that character. I hated that whole scene. Watching it again, I was like, closed my eyes going, oh my God, I hate this scene. You know, come on, Ernie. And then they come across this lady and move it, lady, you know, and because she's in the way. And oh, his constant trying to be funny is like, oh my God, it hurt my brain. Like, it was terrible. But there's other stuff, like there's a scene where they're trying these different, some kind of candy that makes you sound like an animal. And oh, that was just so terrible to watch. Ron eats one that's like a lion. He's and like he's overacting the growls, and I was like, oh my God, that looks terrible. Like, that's supposed to be funny, I think, but it just seemed bad. And there's like the book that you open it and it's like has teeth and it's trying to like eat you. Like, I think that's supposed to be funny, and I was like, I just didn't find that humorous anyway. So a lot of the attempted humor just really did not work in this movie. And that's one of my reasons why I don't like this movie quite as much. Overall, I thought the first half of the movie was not that great. It was a very weak first half. In my opinion, like I said, it wasn't really till you get to that third act, the second half of the movie, I guess, especially that third act scene is so good that it really saves the whole movie. But the first part of the movie, I was just not that invested in the storyline that much, and it wasn't nearly as interesting. And as I talked about, one of the reasons why people like this movie, I think, is because it's a little bit darker in tone and in visual style. Though I said I like the cinematography. My last negative is I thought tonally it was too dark. Like, I kind of preferred the first two movies in the lightheartedness of it, I thought, and a little more brighter in colors. I thought I kind of enjoyed that more, and I thought those first two were more fun movies. This one felt a little more serious, and I didn't like it as much. I just thought it was a little too dark in tone and a little too serious in tone in ways. Yeah, so that hurt the movie for me in a bit, in my opinion. I forgot to say in my positives, like the scene where you get Gary Oldman, David Thewlis, Alan Rickman for a little bit, and Timothy Spall. Like, man, that was a great scene just because you got, you know, 4 great British actors in the room just doing this scene. And that's where you really got to see, you know, really good performances and really got to see these great characters and the way they interact. And of course, there's a great mystery part because you find out Sirius isn't a bad guy and that Ron's rat is actually the villain. The Peter Pettigrew is actually the villain, you know. And that was a great reveal. The performances are so good. Love seeing all those actors in a room together. Alan Rickman gets knocked out quickly, so unfortunately we don't see him as much, but still love that scene, I should say. It's a huge positive of the movie, which goes into the third act. But anyways, so this is my thoughts on Prisoner of Azkaban. Please comment what your thoughts on. Is it your favorite in the series, like a lot of people? Yeah, definitely comment on that. And just thank you to anybody who watched this video. Thank you to anybody who liked it, and just thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I really appreciate you all and hope you have a good day.